Welcome back to All Things Rangers this week. I'm Mark Williams, your host. I am joined by my co-host, who is also the co-host of the Off the Post podcast and also possibly a California gubernatorial candidate in the future. I don't know. He can do so many things. Mr. John Filkowski.
Well, I don't know about that whole California political position, but yeah, I mean, the other stuff, yes. But me in politics, not a good idea.
And if you notice, there's three of us today because we are joined by John's co-host on the Off the Post podcast, Mr. Anthony LaRocco.
Yes. Reunited for a day. I like it. Thanks for having me.
All right. Well, it was a busy week for the Rangers as it was an average week, usually, is what we've come to know. They beat the New Jersey Devils 2 games and kind of put up very little effort against the Pittsburgh Penguins, despite what the third period numbers are going to tell you. So, John, where to start? You want to start with the Pittsburgh games, or you want to start with the New Jersey Devil games?
Well, I mean, I guess we could get the negative stuff out of the way first. Pittsburgh was just looked lifeless. I actually missed one of the games because I had other things going on, but I went back and watched it, and it was just lifeless. Really is the word. There wasn't enough effort there. They just looked like they were skating in quicksand. A lot of the plays just weren't connecting. Passes just weren't on the mark at all. No pun intended there. But the first game was just bad defensive breakdowns. They looked like they were getting back in the game at times, and then it just fell apart. And I honestly, it's kind of just like the story of this year is just inconsistency, and it's from game to game, from shift to shift. Just no semblance of consistency with this team. They go on a 3-game win streak, and you're like, oh, hey, things might be looking good. We might be able to make a push. And then we're right back to where we were before, and same old doldrums, and looking like this team should tank more than it should try to make a run for the playoffs. So here we are again. And those 2 games were the perfect example of why I don't think this team is ready. I think they're probably a year or 2 away at the earliest. And again, highlighting a lack of depth and leadership, because when you have a team, and, Mark, as Ranger fans and being used to seeing those 2013, 14, 15, 16 teams, and even the 2017 team that, they made pushes, you know that when you have the leadership, when you have the depth, these are games that you find ways to win. And they just found ways to lose these games instead of winning them. So that's why I think this team needs a lot of help. And I'm starting to think that they should be sellers at the deadline. I know we're going to get into that in a bit, but I'm really starting to think that they should be sellers if they can sell anything.
I actually think they really should be sellers pretty much no matter what. Don't upgrade that much if you don't have to. And again, we'll get into that. I know the result of those 2 games brought delight to the Islander fan that's right over here. So it's before I turn over to see if Anthony has any impressions of the Rangers week. It's just that we were talking last week about how the New Jersey Devils and the Rangers rebuild, which one was going better. Unfortunately, I had technical difficulties and couldn't get those published. But the real problem is now the Devils are kind of back to being what they are. They're just trash. That's what we know they are. Kenzie Blackwood isn't winning a Vezina trophy this year, and they still have a lot to develop. The Rangers are in the same boat. And we talked about the goaltending situation last week because they're not really handling the goalies well. Igor Shesterkin goes down, which settles the goaltending question, or does it? I think it shows Georgiev isn't as good as what we think he is. And it's everything seemed good up until Mika Zibanejad put that goal in at about the 30-second mark of the first period on Sunday. And then after that, boo! They popped in 3 goals in 61 seconds and the game was over. There is no pushback. Even with that 15-1 third period that they put up on Tuesday night. You got to be kidding me. I mean, other than the one shift where Buchnevich should have popped in too, the only shot on net that Pittsburgh had in the entire period was Sidney Crosby's empty net goal. Are you kidding me?
You mentioned something before about, settling the goaltending question. And I know I'm kind of playing devil's advocate here, but last year when Igor got hurt in the car accident with Buchnevich, Georgiev played, I think it was 9 straight games in a row. And then Henrik Lundqvist, we talked about that, was obviously brought back to that game against Philadelphia, in which he got absolutely shellacked. I think that's the only reason why they played Kinkaid, is because Quinn didn't want to make that same mistake again of absolutely wearing out a goaltender. And Quinn was trying to make a push for the playoffs. Again, he's coaching like someone whose job is on the line. And he was brought in to develop players. And I just don't think that there's been a good enough job done on his end of developing players. And this goaltending situation is one of the central points of why I don't think he's done good with what the situation is here. So, I mean, you're talking about more questions than answers. You're right in a sense there. I definitely agree with you there, but I definitely see why he started Kinkaid. But can we just talk about how Alexander Georgiev cannot stop a breakaway to save his life?
Oh my God. Like Steve Alakett was talking about this. Stop that laughing, Islander fan. But Steve Alakett was talking about this. How Henrik Lundqvist would take 30 breakaways at the end of practice. Georgiev with guys on a breakaway, it's in the back of the net. We already know this. Doesn't matter who it is. Doesn't matter if Kasperi Kapanen or if it's my mother. It's going in. And mom doesn't have a good deke. From afar, Anthony, what have you been seeing about from the Rangers?
Well, first let me say I actually don't hate the Rangers as much as I used to. I don't know if it's because the Islanders are having success now and like the flip is script. The script is flipped. But I just gonna start off with that. So I don't really hate the Rangers. As for their play of late, when I watch them, I think they have a lot of top 6 talent. Hedel, Panarin, Zibanejad, even though he's struggling, Kakko, Lafreniere. When I look at them, I think their bottom 6 is a problem. I mean, you have DiGiuseppe, Howden, Rooney, Blackwell, who's played good. And these guys are bottom 6 players by definition, but I wouldn't call them upper echelon bottom 6 players. Like Sean Corrali in Boston. I texted Phil the other day as an Islander fan. I'm worried about Casey Zizekas. He's hitting unrestricted free agencies. He's making $3.35 million. Islanders are in a really bad cap situation. So unless he takes a lot less, I don't know if they can keep him. And Phil said, he's like, that's a perfect guy for the Rangers. And that's the type of player I think the Rangers need. I think they need more of an established bottom 6 who can help support their top 6 more. Some of the guys that are throwing out there, I think that really hurts them in a lot of ways.
It's funny you mentioned Corrali, because Corrali was actually somebody I mentioned to Mark on a previous episode. You need guys like that to win. And that's the point I was making. And when you brought that whole Zizekas thing up, he's literally, and I know I'll get heat from this because why are you, praising an Islander from some Ranger fans who really can't, get over it. But I'm going to tell you this right now, Ranger fans. Cry me a river, build me a bridge, and get the hell over it. Casey Zizekas would be someone we would love if we had him as a Ranger. We would love him because that's exactly what they need right now.
Let me go over the cons of Casey Zizekas as a New York Ranger. And we're talking about how much he's making right now. He's making $3.5 million. That is a lot of money to pay to a 4th-line player.
The Rangers need guys like that, too. They need middle 6 guys. Your Carl Hagelin was a middle 6 guy. Remember Carl Hagelin's rookie year and how well he was scoring? He was scoring at like a 50-point pace in his rookie year. We don't have guys like that anymore. We need guys like that.
Before I go back to Anthony on this, we've been beating the drums about that their bottom 6 needs work also. And also to go back to whether or not the Rangers should tank. we've also been beating the drums that they shouldn't be tanking. It doesn't matter if you tank anymore. You already got all your guys, because all you're going to do is you're just going to become the new Edmonton Oilers or Buffalo Sabres, and just you're going to have all this talent and nothing to do with it. Just to conclude this segment and move on to the next part. John, does the Rangers season hinge on the next 5 games? 2 at Boston, 2 at Philadelphia, and 1 in Buffalo.
I mean, we're what, 25, 26, 27 games in, somewhere in that range? We're at like the halfway mark?
Yes.
I mean, technically, could they go on a run and make the playoffs? Yeah, but if you don't start doing something sooner than later, you're behind the 8 ball big time. And I don't see how this team has the wherewithal to really go on that type of run at this point. They were at the high water mark, 1 game over 500 after the win against Jersey, correct?
Correct.
So that was the first time they had been over 500 all season. And that was a 3-game win streak, which I believe was also their longest streak of the season. If you can't gather more than 3 wins in a row, especially in the position that they're in, to get to the playoffs, then I don't think they stand a chance. And to me, just the inconsistency is just too much to overcome this type of mountain. I mean, it's almost like they want to climb Everest with their bare hands and feet, and that's not happening. So
Anthony's got something to say.
Well, right now, they're 7 points behind Boston, and that's not including 6 behind Philly, who's directly above them. So,
with games in hand.
Yeah, that too. With the way the division is this year, 7 points doesn't seem like a whole lot, especially when you're playing Boston. At 2 games coming up, but the problem is every team's always going to play each other. So even if the Rangers are playing Boston and winning, Philly, Philly will play Buffalo, New Jersey, and win, and they'll still, so it's going to be hard to make up those points. It really is.
Well, moments like this is where you wish you didn't have bold predictions, where you said the Rangers are going to make the playoffs, even when you were uneasy about it. But again, that's why the bold prediction is a bold prediction. You can watch that video, and I'll be updating that to let you know how much I'm an idiot. All right.
Did you like that video? Of course you did. So why not check out some more of our content? You can check the playlist right here or right here,